Hey, good morning, everybody. Right now I am currently recording onto DVD from my DVR recording, She's All Yak, thus continuing my seasonal DVD tradition that I started back last season when I should have started a lot sooner. But speaking about All Yak, a lot of people have had their differences over the past weekend about this episode. Some felt it was adorable and cute, and they kind of liked the message, even though part of the message is a repeat from even last week's episode. A lot of people kind of like what they're seeing here, especially the idea that, well, potentially we're getting a romance developed, or a ship, at least teased, if you will, between members of the, as I look at them, secondary main cast in the student/young six, especially between the characters of Sambar and Yona. But the question is, what was the message on top of the message that was kind of a repeat from last week's, that I feel is a message that not just young kids could understand, but adults can accept and probably explain to their kids? Well, quite simply, it's a message of being able to accept someone for who they are and what they are. That it shouldn't matter what racial or ethnic or cultural background they come from, that if you truly care about that individual one way or another, and they care about you the same way, that's all that should matter. And especially if it comes to love or potential love, again, that's all that that's all that should matter. And that, as the old saying goes, love conquers all. And I like the idea that we got that message here in this episode. I really do. Along with the be yourself message that is kind of repeated from last week and in previous episodes before, still the be yourself message is a good message, because there are people even today, kids, adults, teens, that try to be someone they're not, only to be told by their friends and maybe the person that has an interest in them, I like you for you, and that's all that matters. So I like the fact that you had a comprising of two messages built into this episode. But this episode did one other thing too, and it's something that I think a lot of fans may or may not agree with. You see, the other thing that this episode did was it opened up the gates. You see, the creative staff behind the show, when they communicate with the fans either through conventions or like Jim Miller did, who's known as @TheBiggestJim on Twitter, did this past Friday before Saturday's premiere of She's All Yak, when they like to do Q&As, one of the answers they give a lot of fans sometimes is either, my NDA prevents me from saying much, or I cannot say what may or may not happen or occur. And when they say something like that, when they give answers like that, those answers might be true. Those answers may be legit. But their answers in that form to someone like us, the fans, it's their way of saying, in my opinion, and I'm sure anybody else agrees with this opinion, it's their way of saying, yes, something will happen, but we can't say when and where it's going to happen or what's going to come out of it. Basically, I cannot say what may or may not, or my NDA, to me that's just their way of saying we cannot say, it's just their way of saying, yes, something will happen, but we cannot say when, where, and how it's going to occur. That's about it. And there was one question I asked Jim this past week on Twitter, and he basically gave me that answer. And the question was about Spike and Rarity. And ever since then, a lot of fans have kind of followed through. One fan even tweeted along the same thread in response to what I said or asked, that all we want is some kind of resolution. All we want is to see Spike and Rarity together, because pretty much, let's be honest, whether you agree with the ship or you don't, it's been teased, hinted, had its moments, and basically been built up since season 1. And basically the biggest evidence of this goes back to Best Gift Ever, and when Spike sang that song, his portion of True Gift of Giving, the song True Gift of Giving, to Rarity, which essentially sounded like a serenade and a love song. And speaking of which, again, I go back to this, and even somebody else pointed this out and made a comparison. When Spike sings his portion of True Gift of Giving, his serenade love song to Rarity, there's a scene where Rarity is surprised by this and she's touched. She puts a hoof over her heart, and you see sparks, stars in her eyes. One fan at Facebook even compared this to Lady and the Tramp and the spaghetti scene between Lady and Tramp. So, to me, the staff knows what they're doing, but they cannot say what is going to happen, when it's going to occur, and how it's going to occur. But what it has to do with this episode, She's All Yak, basically She's All Yak is the creative staff's way of opening the doors and saying, look, there is nothing wrong with a romance between a pony and a non-pony creature. I mean, a lot of people pretty much look at Fluttershy and Discord and they say that's a romance no matter one way or another how you look at it. I mean, they had Spike even acknowledge it back last season in season 8 with the breakup breakdown episode, and that line he gave to Discord about, oh, well then I guess you just, oh really? So you just go to Fluttershy's or spend time with Fluttershy for tea and all that? Yeah, right, or something like that. So the staff knows. I mean, Jim even acknowledged he knows about the shippers out there. So the staff knows that fans want to see something happen. But when and where it's going to occur is another story. But, again, the reason I bring up She's All Yak as an example here is because basically, like I said, this episode opened the door. It opened the gates, if you will, for the staff to pretty much say, look, it doesn't matter if Sambar's a pony and Yona's a yak. If they're attracted to each other and Sambar has feelings for her and she has feelings for him, then that's all that matters. It shouldn't matter if one has to date one species or another. It shouldn't matter. Speciesness and racism should not play a part in this. And that's basically the message you're getting here. And to me, when I see this episode and I see that message and I see basically what the creative staff is hinting at, it does give me hope that we're going to get a Spike and Rarity episode down the line, or at least something occurring between them that's going to put them together finally before the season's out. And I know a lot of people don't like to hear that. But the other thing that confirmed this, and I'm sure if you're a shipper of Ocellus and Sambar, or Sambar and Smolder, or Gallus and Yona, and whatever, this pretty much, if you're an Ocellus Sambar shipper, sunk that boat. It sunk it. It sunk any other ship besides the Yona Sambar one. So if they're willing to do that, and then have a little like a little thing in the background with a shooting star, that if you read romance novels or you've watched romantic movies or romantic shows or episodes or whatever, or movies with a romantic theme, and the two love interests finally kind of get together, if you will, and you see that shooting star in the background, that's basically telling you that those two are going to be, that something's going to happen between those two romantically. When and where or how it's developed is another question. But like I said, what this does is it opens up the gate. The staff basically, in my opinion, used this episode to not only give out some good messages, but also set up the fact that if we get Spike and Rarity and, officialized like we're all hoping it will, or something like between Fluttershy and Discord, that it's not going to matter if two of them are ponies and one's a Dragonus and one's a dragon, especially a small dragon. It's not going to matter. In fact, again, to quote something that Finn the Pony said back in a review a couple weeks ago, Spike proved himself to be a capable young adult. So if Spike's looked at by someone like Finn as an adult, that's all that should matter. Overall, when one looks at this episode, they look at kind of with common ground, and they look potentially at all these ships that have been occurring in the past several seasons and been brought back to the forefront, if you will. It's like the creative staff knows that with this being the last season, they just need to get a lot of this out of the system. They need to get this all, done with and over with. Make things, make some of these ships official, surprise people with some ships they don't see coming, make that somewhat official. Basically, acknowledge that with friendships sometimes, especially between a male and a female, a boy and a girl, a man and a woman, that basically sometimes that friendship, depending on the circumstances, could develop into something more. It could develop into love, into a relationship. And I think when you look at what happened here with She's All Yak, with them putting some focus back on Spike and Rarity, especially her concerned look for Spike when he was being helped out by Twilight from, the accident or mishap that Yona had, to the hints of Fluttershy and Discord and what Discord did to save Fluttershy at the beginning of the season. What they did with Quibble Pants and Clear Sky, what they've done with Maud Pie and Mud Briar, Big Mac and Sugar Bell. It's basically the staff's way of wrapping a lot of things up and basically, in my opinion, sending the message that love sometimes evolves out of friendship. And when it comes to the ships I just mentioned, it looks like that's the emphasis they're putting on there. That's what it looks like to me. But that's just my opinion, guys. I know a lot of you out there don't like the idea that this episode, besides the messages they give, opens that door to potential interspecies relationships, especially those you feel shouldn't be because of certain reasons, but obviously will be. But to me, I like the idea. I like it because it's saying that if you love somebody, if you care about somebody, it shouldn't matter to you whether they're a yak, whether they're a dragon that's just small, whether they're a dragoness, Lord of Chaos, or whatever. Or they're just trying to, trying to fit, or if they're trying to do what they can to impress you as well as win over your daughter or your child to accept them, it shouldn't matter. That in the end, love conquers all. And it shouldn't matter what species, race, or whatever you come from, what kind of background or whatever you have. But let me know what you guys think. Let me know down below what your thoughts are, and I will talk to you later. But let me know if you believe She's All Yak did exactly what I believe it did.